And we are live. How's it going, everybody? It's Clint, Justin, Nolan from Prestige Aquatics, and we're here with our first ever live stream. Really excited about getting the live stream started. It's something we've wanted to do for a while. Haven't quite had the right video software and equipment, but we're trending in that direction, and we're wanting to do more of this and something that's more interactive with our following. And really excited to be here, guys.
Glad to be here.
I'm very excited.
So we've got just a few things we're going to talk about tonight. Moreover, general fishy business is the name of the live stream. That's just because we're going to just kind of chit-chat, talk about some interesting things, get interactive with you all. We want to know what you think about some topics. And yeah, but first I'd like to say it's really cool to be on a live stream and be in front of a live audience here on YouTube. We're planning on doing a lot more live streaming, having some special guests, having some interesting people, and talking about some really cool fish topics. So I'm looking forward to that and looking forward to doing this more with you all. First things first, a big question that I've been getting a lot lately, and I figured I'd just go right off the bat and answer this, is how we got started at Prestige Aquatics, how we got started with fish. And I just wanted to start by saying that I've been keeping fish my whole life. I've been had aquariums since I was a little boy. I went to college, had about 5 aquariums in my apartment. When we graduated school, I moved back here, and I had about 8 or 9 tanks in my house. My wife said, enough is enough. You got to get these somewhere else. You can have, 2 or 3 tanks in the house, but if you're going to get crazy with how many tanks you have, you're going to have to move it to its own special location. So that turned out to be this building. Started Prestige Aquatics. I picked up Justin and Nolan along the way, and I'll let them tell a little about their experience on getting started with Prestige Aquatics.
Yeah, so for me, Clint called me up one day after work, and he said he was interested in starting some business and was wondering if I would be interested in joining him. I lived in Virginia, so I wasn't able to be around the business to start off, and it was tough. I mainly dealt with some operation and finance side of the world type things, and then during COVID, I was able to luckily work remotely for my company I work for, and get to be more hands-on with the business, which I really enjoy. I've learned so much from Clint about the fish business and keeping fish, so it's been awesome. We've expanded so much over the last year, and so yeah, that's a little bit about me. Nolan?
For me, I was actually managing a hemp farm before I took on this job, and I got a call from Clint with the offer to work at this awesome place, and it's too good of an offer to pass up. So here I am now. I kept a few fish earlier in my life, but nothing like this. So.
Yeah, it's been a good ride with these guys, and we're really excited about the direction the business is going. Even this year, we've really expanded our fish room. We're up to about 280 tanks right now. If you saw our last fish room tour, even since then, it's changed dramatically, and we're really, really moving forward. And Nolan, I'm gonna circle back around to you. I want you to talk about you've managed hemp farms. You've dealt with tobacco. I know you did a lot of student research during our time at UK, and just wanted to talk about how plants that you have taken care of in horticulture and things like that have translated to the aquarium hobby.
Well, all the plants are going to have basically the same needs, so they're all going to need nutrients, light, water, especially with aquatic plants. So it's really not that far from what I've already been doing. I hadn't worked with aquatic plants until this point, but it's in the same vein. So
absolutely. Guys, another thing that I've been talking to some other fish people about lately is how easy it is to get into the hobby these days. And there's a multitude of information on YouTube, mostly good information, some bad information, but for the most part, it's a really, really good source of knowledge. It's easy to get your hands on some equipment. Want you to always guys to talk about kind of how you all have transitioned into getting into the aquarium hobby and some things that you found challenging.
Yeah, for me, before I started at Prestige Aquatics, I really didn't have any fish keeping experience whatsoever. So luckily, I had Clint as a great resource to kind of teach me the ropes of like having a fish tank and like what's needed to keep like to have a successful fish tank. So you know, I have a great resource with Clint. Obviously, YouTube, Google, you can always figure things out. But yeah, it's been, there's so many resources out there. So it's been a fairly easy transition for me.
Yeah, I was basically just keeping bait fish for fishing before this. That was the extent of my fish keeping, but Clint's a wealth of knowledge. So, you know, I mean, it's pretty easy to pick up on everything when he already knows everything that's going on, and we have all these systems in place in here. So that and the internet's pretty helpful.
Yes, the internet is very helpful. I have to say that's probably where I learned most of what I know about aquariums and the whole ecosystem of an aquarium. And that kind of transitions me into, I want to talk about our system here at Prestige Aquatics. And we obviously have a very high-tech system compared to what typical hobbyists will have. But want you all to, sorry about that, had a phone call. Want you all to talk about what is your favorite part of the system, and what do you see as the most beneficial thing that we have here in the fish room.
Justin, you want to go with this first?
Yeah, I can go first. I think the most obvious thing is the automatic water change system we have here. We have about 280 tanks in the fish room, and what we do, it wouldn't be possible without the automatic water change. We need to have the fish in the best water that we can possibly give them. We try to keep everything extremely healthy, so we need the water change system in order to function as a company.
Yeah, I mean, I would also have to say the water change system, and the fact that we heat the whole building with gas is extremely helpful as well. So we really don't have to worry about heaters in the tanks, and that's just one more problem we don't have to deal with.
Yep, absolutely. The heat is a big one, and the water change, it just keeps everything clean and keeps everything healthy. All right, guys, a fun question for you. What is your favorite fish in the fish room right now?
Nolan, do you want to go?
Yeah, I gotcha. I think the red pleco, the 2 foot long pleco is probably my favorite, just because he's a big dog essentially. He'll come up when it's feeding time, and I can pet him. Not too much, but he's pretty tolerant of my presence, so I like him a lot.
Yeah, for me, it's our wet pet Brutus, absolute monster, beautiful fish. You've seen him on a bunch of the videos, but yeah, that would be my favorite.
Both those fish, great. I have to go right now with the Hypostomus luteus Zeus. He's a phase 1 Hypostomus, and we've got him in our 600-gallon cichlid tank right now. Really loving him, and he's growing at a rapid rate. Hopefully we'll get him to about 18 inches. He'll be a big gold thing in the tank. Another fun, not so fun question for you all. You all are both younger fish keepers. What is the worst thing about fish keeping for you all so far?
For me, it's got to be anytime I have to get in the tank and actually move fish and just disturb their habitat. I just don't like putting any undue stress on fish, but sometimes you got to get in there and get your hands dirty, and it's not a fun thing to do.
Yeah, the fish can be feisty. They don't like being caught, so I'm with you there. For me, I would say just like if a tank bust or like a seam bust on a tank and we have to do all the cleanup, not only like with the tank itself, but the rack. Yeah, it's never fun having to clean.
Luckily, that's a rare occurrence.
Yeah, it doesn't happen often, but when it does, it's never fun.
When it does happen, it's terrible and it has no warning. But we pretty much have gotten away from the brands of tanks that'll do that now. I'd say my least favorite part is importing fish that might have different pathogens that they bring into the fish room and trying to nurse them back to health, sometimes unsuccessfully. We can do everything in our power to ensure that the fish are healthy here. But if they arrive in such poor condition when they get here that we can't revive them, then it's pretty upsetting, I would say.
Yeah.
So now that we're into the meat of this live stream, let's expand on a couple topics here. I want to talk about breeding fish. Now, Nolan, in the last year that he's worked here, has probably bred more fish in 1 year than I have in my entire lifetime. So I'm going to let him talk about a couple of different species that he has really shot off with. And the first one I want you to talk about is the rainbow fish. So tell me what the secret is to you breeding rainbow fish. I know you're breeding like 8 or 9 different species right now. You've got at least 1,000 fry in this fish room.
Yeah.
Tell me what's going on, why you're so successful with breeding rainbow fish.
I mean, you just have to be diligent, and you have to have breeding mops in there.
Yeah.
And I'm sure our viewers probably have an idea of what a breeding mop is, but for those who don't, it's just a handmade little mop of acrylic yarn that you throw in the tank with a pair or trio of rainbow fish, and they're going to scatter their eggs in there. The male's going to fertilize it, and I just remove that on a daily basis, put those in our breeder boxes on our dedicated fry rack on the other side of the room, and just wait a few days, and we'll have a bunch of fry turning up just about every day here at Prestige.
Talk about the rearing of the fry. I know that it gets a little hairy feeding the fry the first couple days. Tell me what, I know because I've watched you, but tell our viewers what has worked for you in getting these fry along, getting them to a size to where we can feed them some actual foods.
Well, they're always going to be on the hunt for infusoria, which is going to be naturally occurring as long as you have plants in the tanks, which we always do, of course. Java mulch is great for housing infusoria, but my go-to actual food that I'm providing is always microworms in the first couple weeks. And then as they get a little bit bigger, we'll move on to baby brine shrimp, which we make here every day. So that's the secret.
And then going back to the mops, why would the acrylic yarn versus a different type of yarn?
Well, other types of yarn are going to potentially release dye into the aquarium, whereas acrylic is just that color. It's not dyed. So you don't want to harm the fish with some foreign substance. So that's the main reason.
100%. Very good point there. And on the microworms, I know that you found this very useful. We feed baby brine every day. We make at least 4 batches a day, and we're feeding it to almost 100 different tanks, I'd say, right now.
Yeah.
And the microworms are really a great transition food. They'll get you from that fry point where big enough to eat infusoria but not big enough to eat baby brine shrimp, and they'll really provide a nice supplement to get the fry along to where you can get them on some baby brine shrimp.
Yep, that's right.
So,
how do you all think the brine? We've recently really gone to the brine shrimp. How do you think that's helped with the growth of the fish that we currently have in the fish?
Absolutely essential.
It's been amazing.
Yeah, I mean, you can't beat fresh live food every day. And, you know, that's a lot more interactive for smaller animals and smaller fish in general. But, you know, that's going to trigger the instinct more than just a dry food like Cyclops. Some dry Cyclops isn't going to be as enticing to young fish.
Yeah, absolutely. Sorry, guys. My phone is blowing up there. But I completely agree. The baby brine is, I mean, it's really what we have to have in order to raise these fish along. The growth rate's much higher. It's it just provides so much more sustenance. Enrichment is a word we use around here a lot. It provides enrichment in the fish's life and how it responds to external stimuli, like searching for food, like being in a natural habitat. So all those things are going to promote overall fish health more than a prepared food like our freeze-dried Cyclops or something similar.
Yep.
How many rainbow fish do you think, how many like fry do you think we have right now, Nolan?
I mean, over 1,000 easily. Yeah. Yeah, it's crazy.
Guys, if you know anybody that would be interested in buying a few hundred rainbow fish fry or rainbow fish juveniles at a time, or even adults, have them reach out to us at prestigeaquaticsfish.com. We'd love to talk to them about moving some rainbow fish. And on the breeding, since we've talked about rainbows, I'll go ahead and talk about something that's in my wheelhouse. I've been breeding Apistogrammas and smaller cichlids for a long time now. Really, when I first got into the hobby, I was big into the big cichlids. I was keeping Central, South American cichlids. I was keeping Oscars, Jack Dempsey's, fire mouse, convicts. Even got into rare stuff. Got some Texas cichlids, some things like that. And really have always liked cichlids. And then I found out about Apistogrammas and rams and things like that. And I just thought it was really cool how that you could have the personality of the cichlid, but you could have them in a tank that was actually manageable. For me, I would always have 125-gallon tanks, and if you've ever kept an Oscar, you know that long-term, 125 gallons, even that isn't a big enough tank. So, but anyway, so found the micro cichlids, really got interested in them, and have been trying to breed them for years. Had some success. Even more recently, we've had even more success. Nolan and I have kind of put our heads together on getting some fish that were a little more finicky to spawn. And it's been really good for us as a business to have a constant supply of Apistogramma. Couple things that I think kind of promote spawning for Apistos. First of all, it's all going to be based on your female's behavior. If your female is not willing to spawn, you're not going to get a clutch of eggs. And so the female has to be prepared and ready. You can do that with good meaty foods, really high-quality live foods, high-quality prepared foods, etc. And then the female is going to make the first move. And what I mean by that is she's going to need to stake out a territory. And in order for her to have a territory, you're going to have to provide one. They love caves. They love like pieces of PVC, something that they can get up inside and kind of protect the entrance of. So the female will go into the cave and she will claim that territory, and then she will actually lure the male into the cave. And so the male then has to be ready. So a lot of times you'll see the female will be ready. She'll be in the cave, and then the male won't get the message, and he won't be able to figure it out. And something we kind of mentioned, a little bit humorous, is these fish, if they've never bred, they really don't know what they're doing. They're just like any animal, humans included. Don't really know what you're doing the first time you breed, but you get it figured out the more you try with it.
That's right.
But yeah, so the male eventually will figure it out. They'll go in the cave, probably anywhere from 3 to 4 days, the male will start coming out, and then about 7 days later, you'll see the female bring a nice clutch out, a nice spawn of juvies.
Nolan, didn't you find something interesting a couple days ago on Apistos?
Oh yeah, just on the body language.
Yeah, on the body language.
Yeah, we noticed that some of our females would waft their tail at the male, and originally we had thought that was sort of a enticing maneuver by the female, but it turns out that it's actually the opposite. It's kind of her telling him to back off. She's not interested in mating with him. So
yeah, you'll see females of all different species, and they'll kind of do this wafting at the males. And yeah, we thought that was kind of a breeding dance, but actually that is some body language to say, hey, I'm not interested. You need to go away, get away from me. She's definitely not his type. So from there, we've been doing a couple of different things as far as trying to get him reacclimated. We've been pulling out the male and separating him and then reintroducing him later. So more findings on that coming soon. We're just still in our experimental phase there.
yeah, we're definitely hoping that distance makes the heart grow fonder.
Yes.
With our Apistos.
Yes, for sure. What about, and Nolan and I kind of know similar about this because we've learned together. Let's talk a little bit about breeding the betas, because I know we've gotten pretty serious into doing that lately. How haven't been doing it long, but we've had at least 5 or 6 successful hatches in the last about month.
Yeah, that's right.
And it's been really fun for us. And I'll start by saying that our favorite type of beta is definitely our emerald wild caught betas.
Definitely.
And they're really cool, really good color. I just posted a picture on our Instagram today, so if you're wondering what they look like, you can go there. And we've got a couple big clutches from them, and hoping to have those to you in about 3 months' time. But let's just talk generally about the breeding process for us. We've seen a bunch of different ways online, but we're batting like 700 right now with our method. So let's just talk about it. Why don't you tell them about it?
Well, you find your pair that you want to put together,
right?
And so what we like to do is actually have them in adjacent tanks, and we'll have a barricade or a blockade so they can't see each other in between the tanks. And we just want to kind of acclimate them to each other's presence. So we'll remove that for a little while during the day and just let them see each other, let them know that, here's a potential mate. And then after we've done that for a little while, we're going to move them into a 2.5, basically a specimen container. And we'll have a clear separator for the female to go in. So they're going to go in together in the same water. And once the male's had a day to make his bubble nest, we are going to release the female in there. We're going to kind of keep a close eye on them and really make sure that the female's not getting beat up too badly. And as long as things are going well, we'll give them a day, and we can expect to be able to take that female out of there and see some fry in that bubble nest in a couple days.
Is there anything else that you put in the specimen container, or is it just the fish? What all do you like to put in there?
Well, we put some catappa leaves in there, and that's just to add some tannins to the water, and it more closely mimics the beta's natural habitat. So you always want to do that with any fish. And we also like to add some java moss, just so those fry have a source of infusoria as soon as they're ready to eat.
Absolutely. And yeah, I think the something that I overlooked early in my breeding career was the tannins in the water. And I think it's a lot more important than we realize as hobbyists, just how those tannins affect the fish in the water. And not only the fish, but also the bacteria and the microfauna, microflora that are in the water. And it's promoting an environment that is conducive for actually raising eggs, because it's an antibacterial agent. So a lot of things that you see on eggs, when you first have them, you'll see a lot of fungus, bacterial, nasty stuff growing on eggs, and that's going to kind of thwart the growth of that just by having those tannins in the water. So it's really important to have that, in your water if you're trying to breed betas, or you're trying to breed apistos or angelfish or any kind of cichlid or anything that comes from a blackwater environment. On that note, with the tannins, we've recently had a nice successful spawn of some angelfish.
That's right. Yeah.
And I just want, Nolan, I know that it's been a long road, but I want you to talk about how we've progressed and how we've learned about actually being successful breeding angelfish, whereas we're getting eggs, we weren't getting any fry. Why are we getting fry now and in such great numbers?
Well, I'm going to let everybody in on a secret. It's methylene blue.
Yes.
That is essentially doing what he was talking about with the tannins, and that is preventing fungus on the eggs, which is critical if you want those eggs to survive. If they get fungus, they're going to not be successful. Those eggs are not going to hatch. So that's that, and you want to have a good flow of air to, keep things from being stagnant in whatever you're keeping them in, but ideally, we keep it in a specimen container, our hatches of eggs. So,
and tell them how we get the eggs from the tank to the specimen container. I know we're letting out all our secrets right now, but we're trying to help the few people who are watching the live stream right now.
Well, we like to use these little clay cones that you would use to water a plant as a structure for the angelfish to actually lay their eggs on. So that can be in the center of the tank. It makes it easy for the angelfish to kind of maneuver and for the male to inseminate these eggs. And so once they've laid those, and I'm sure that the male has inseminated the eggs, I'm going to remove that from the tank. Really easy, doesn't disturb the fish too much. And that's how we typically get it. But occasionally, the angelfish will be a little cheeky, and they'll lay their eggs on the wall of the aquarium, in which case I have to use a razor blade and a turkey baster to catch the eggs after I've scraped them off.
And things get a little hairy when you do that, don't they?
Yeah. It's a little bit dangerous, but, we still have successful hatches off that, and that's what's got to be done sometimes.
Yeah, I've really recently just gravitated toward angelfish. I've been keeping angels for 6-7 years now, and kept all different kinds of angelfish, and it's one of those fish that you kind of get in and out of the longer you're in the aquarium hobby. But recently, I'm really liking where we're heading with these angelfish fry and just having them in general for stock. We've got all high-quality angelfish, cobalt blues, platinums, wild Leopoldis, wild Dumorilii, Avatar turkey greens, and some zebra blues. Just a bunch of high-quality angelfish trying to get to breed right now and have really a lot of fry in the fish room right now. So. Oh,
man, fry everywhere in the fish room. All species.
They really are. They really are.
Yeah, if you follow us on Instagram, you probably saw our batch of cobalt angels. It's crazy how many there are. It's like 100, something like that.
Yeah, well over 100 on that. It's pretty cool to see.
Yeah, they're starting to look like angelfish now. It's been awesome to see for sure.
While we're talking about breeding, I know that we're kind of giving away all our trade secrets here, but we want to reward the people who are watching the live stream here. Let's talk about the bread and butter, the historical bread and butter for Prestige Aquatics, the guppy fish. So, guppies, a guppy is the most popular fish in the world, especially overseas, Thailand, Asia area. Guppies are huge over there, and we've been keeping guppies seriously, for about 4 years here, and cultivated some really nice lines, and historically they've been our best seller of fish. And we do things a little differently than some of the big name guppy breeders. We're really getting serious about genetics, about mixing genetics, deepening genetic pools, and it gets really complicated just how all that works. But I think it all starts, the most important thing with the guppy, I think it all starts with a really good diet. So these guppies, they need to be fat, they need to be happy, they need to be in an environment that is going to promote them to spawn. And Nolan, why don't you just touch on some things that we're feeding our guppies and kind of what your feeding regiment looks like?
Well, the guppies get a pretty varied diet, all things considered, but it can be anything from some crushed up granules of just some tetramin to dry cyclops. And what I like to give them a feeding of every day is some baby brine shrimp. Every fish loves baby brine shrimp unless, the fish is gigantic. But in general, that's one of the best foods you can provide for your fish, and guppies are no different.
About how many times do you think do you feed the fish every day?
Oh, I feed the fish 3 times every day.
And spaced out.
Yeah, it's obviously they're spaced out pretty well, at least 4 hours apart.
And on the feeding, I want to touch on the Cyclops. I think that was a big game changer for me. I saw some YouTuber doing it. I can't even remember who now, but we were buying this freeze-dried Cyclops, and I was finding it hard to target feeding the fry in a tank, especially if we were leaving the parents in and they were hiding. But the Cyclops is great. It's like a dust, and it goes in the tank, and it kind of just all settles into the water, and it's really great for feeding fry all throughout the water column. So that was a big one for us. And obviously baby brine is like the best food that you could feed to fry and even to adult fish that'll take it. We're going to use the enrichment word again, but it really enriches the life of the fish. Having to hunt for the food, having to navigate the water and search for something that's live. And I feel like they really look forward to getting that feeding every day of the brine.
Absolutely. You want to do anything you can to mimic the natural habitat in an aquarium. So that's going to be just like the wild. They're going to find small organisms that they're going to try and predate all the time.
Yeah, and these fish, they're like a guppy fish. It's not going around and eating other fish. It's finding things like brine shrimp, copepods. If they're eating microfauna, microflora, algae. They're grazing all day. They're having to search for food, and that's something that they kind of lose in the aquarium. They just wait for their food 3 times a day. But when you feed things that are live, even like a microworm or a baby brine shrimp or something like that, it really is kind of tapping them into their natural state, and they're kind of mimicking what they would do in the wild, which is pretty cool. And that goes for any fish. That's not just for guppies. It's just fish in general. It's really good to feed live foods. Obviously, you don't want to feed feeder fish or anything like that you're going to buy, but most fish aren't eating other fish strictly in the wild. They're eating insects. They're eating microfauna. They're eating microflora and some of the other things that we mentioned. So, all right, guys, I think that we've talked enough for this live stream. If you stayed till the end, thanks for watching today. We really appreciate you coming. Looking to do more live streams in the future. We've kind of thrown this together, and we're really wanting this to be a big part of our channel where we can discuss with you all, encourage you all to ask more questions in the next few live streams. We want to hear from you all. If there's something you didn't ask in the live stream that you want to know about, feel free to message us on our website at prestigeaquaticsfish.com. If you're looking to buy any fish, we've got them listed there. Get Gills, Aquabid. We're selling fish through all different avenues. And all fish are covered by our Prestige promise that the fish that you receive will be up to your quality and health standards, no exceptions. But anyway, guys, I appreciated talking with you all, and appreciated everybody that stayed along the live stream. And I guess we'll see you all in the next video.
Yeah, it was great. Thanks, everyone.